Hello guys, it's me Zane. I'm just blessed with the presence of this orchid here. My Paraphalaenopsis labukensis, which is in bloom, in bloom. I'm lucky to experience this. So why is this shirt like this? What is this weird thing going on here? I don't like that. Today I wanted to show you this guy, but before we start to talk about that, well, consider the option of subscribing to my channel, also consider the option of following me on Instagram, and let's do this shit. Okay, first things first, I'm the realist, but other than that, let's talk about my Paraphalaenopsis labukensis. I thought it's a species orchid, so it's a special thing. Also, I think it's rare, and also since it's blooming, and yeah, all these things in my mind combined made me think that I need to do a separate video for this guy. So I guess here we go. Let's talk about the history of this orchid. So I bought this orchid at the Budapest Orchid Show. It was an extremely lucky find because I was just browsing what they have. I just saw these long leaves there and I was like, oh shit, this must be a Paraphalaenopsis labukensis. I guess the price is like endless euros, and I went there and it was like 20 euros, and I was like, okay, I don't care, I will buy you. It was in that really weird plastic pot, you know, that really flimsy black pot, and I was like, oh shit, now how do I pot you up? So I was keeping in that pot for a longer time, for an extended period, which I should have not done, but here we go, it's blooming, so it wasn't that bad, I guess. So I needed an idea what to do with it, how to put it up, and I wanted to hang it because it's a hanging plant, but I didn't want to make a mound because I'm not that person who will water mounds every day. So I came up with this experiment, which I already talked about this channel a lot in a lot of different videos, and I think this experiment is going pretty well since it's blooming, and my other orchid, which is in this setup, in this floating sphere setup, is also blooming, so it's going well. This orchid, when I received it, it started to create a little bump on the stem part of this orchid, on the upper part, and I already talked about that in one of my orchid collection updates. And I was happy that, oh my god, something is growing there, and I'm so excited. But that thing was growing there for a long time, a really long time, and after even more time, that little thing, that little bump just dried up, and I was like, oh well, I guess we'll never know. What was that? What was the future of that bump? We'll never know. So I was like, oh, guess I will care my heart out for this Paraphalaenopsis labukensis, and we'll see what's gonna happen. After that, I think last summertime, I started to see another bump on the stem, the same bump as it was growing. I guess we're doing this again, creating a bump and then cancelling it. So my hopes weren't too high, and that bump was stopped. Eventually it was stopped for no reason, or guess it was some environmental reason, I don't know. It was stopped, and after time, in the winter time, like half year after it was created, it started to grow. Really extremely slowly. The growth was so slow that I wasn't even sure that I'm just imagining it or it's really happening. After that, something happens. That little spiky thingy started to grow extremely fast, and I realized that, oh shit, this must be a spike. Then some buds appeared there. Holy shit, my Paraphalaenopsis labukensis is going to bloom. It will have buds, and it's going to be gorgeous. Yeah, here we go now. So the spike started to grow, then I started to count the buds as soon as I've seen those buds there, because I was really curious how many buds I'm gonna have, and I was happy that I won't get like only one bud or anything. I think this is the first blooming of this orchid, so for the first blooming I'm getting these 3 blooms, so I'm happy for that. Because, you know, it's a species, it's supposed to be like not that easy as other hybrids created for the home, but you know, I was like, oh shit, I was maybe lucky, I maybe got the actual care right, I don't know. I had to get the care right because it's blooming and it's beautiful, so yeah. So right now, after the history, let's talk about these gorgeous blooms. I mean, wow. Since I'm really excited for anything which is pendant or this pendulous or whatever, I was really excited that a pendulous orchid in a successful experiment is actually blooming. Now I was researching the fuck out of these blooms because I wanted to know what should I expect. I wanted to know how should I keep it, where should I keep it, what should I do, what should I think. And actually it took like 3 or 4 days until these buds were opened up completely. You know, there are some other orchids which open up in like 2 days and their final shape is actually there after 2 days after starting to open. Well, for this orchid it took a little bit longer. It's not a bad thing or anything, I'm just pointing that out. After these blooms opened up, my mind was blown. I love every feature of these buds, so I will describe these flowers. Even though you see it, I will describe it and I will tell you what are my favorite parts on it. I thought that holy shit, these look wild. These look wild AF. I don't know, if I look at these flowers, I think about the wilderness and the jungle. So you get these 2 petals and 3 sepals which have this brownish color, but there is a pattern on them. So there is this yellowish greenish spotting on the petals and the sepals, but also not only these lighter colored spots are there, but also you can find some even darker brown colored spots. Both the sepals and the petals have this really yellowish greenish but paler colored edge like a margin, and I love that. Actually these petals and sepals look like they are variegated in a way, but actually they are not, since this is not a variegated orchid, but they look like that because of this paler colored edge. There is the lip, which is something to die for. I'm in love with that lip. It looks like, I don't know, it reminds me of a snake tongue. The pattern on this lip is really wild. I love it. The actual lip is sort of whitish yellowish, not pure white, and you get these stripy thingies on this lower bottom part of the lip which looks like a snake tongue, but then you got these upper parts of the lip have these tiny little hooks on them, and I think this makes it more wild. Like it's a wild thing and it wants to eat you. I love these little hooks on the actual lip. The flower is like 6 centimeters, so it's not like super big but not tiny either. But you know, in my mind it just blends in with these natural paler, not that vivid colors, but definitely I like it. I just think it's rather a blending in from the flower's side. If you look at the flower spike, I've got these 3 flowers on it, but definitely you can get more because the Paraphalaenopsis labukensis is capable of producing more flowers than that, and the flowers actually create this cluster thingy, so it's rather a half sphere when there are a lot of blooms. So the spike, even if the spike actually creates a lot of blooms, it won't be like super long because all these flowers will be in like one big cluster. I'm not like mad about that. I actually like that feature. If you look at these flowers, you get this star shape, but the petals and the sepals are actually have this wavy thing going on, so it's not a pure star shape. You get these twisted petals and sepals, and this is one feature that I really like. Totally, I'm in love with these blooms. I cannot wait for the next blooming to happen with some more flowers, hopefully, you know. On the internet, I read that this orchid is scented and I will have a beautiful cinnamon fragrance in my house when it blooms. Well, let's keep in mind that this orchid blooms for the first time, and as you might know, first bloomers won't actually showcase the full potential. The flowers might be a little bit less showy, or there might be no fragrance, or there might be a fragrance which is just a reminder of the full potential and it's not the powerful full extent of the fragrance. I was waiting for my cinnamon fragrance to arrive, and I was like, oh well, maybe it won't arrive because you know it's the first blooming and it's not going to be perfect. But you know, the moment that the buds actually cracked open, I started to smell it like every 10 minutes because I really wanted to feel the cinnamon fragrance, because it was described as beautiful cinnamon fragrance and I was really excited about that. Now guess what? This is everything but cinnamon. So these buds actually opened up, I think, like a week ago by now, most probably. And I smell them every day. I smell them in the afternoon, in the night. I smell them when the sun was shining on them. I think now I have a good experience of that. This orchid actually has a fragrance in the daytime. Before noon it smells a little bit more. Like the afternoon progresses, the fragrance is actually less and less powerful and there is no fragrance at night. The fragrance is not cinnamon at all, but I cannot describe this fragrance. I will try, but this fragrance is something else. I've never felt, I never smelled something like this. I thought that the fragrance might have this progress, that it won't be that powerful in the first days. Like today, when I was walking in my sunroom, where this orchid is actually staying right now, I definitely smelled the fragrance even when I did not stick my face into the flowers. I was just passing a few meters away of this orchid and I felt the fragrance. So it is powerful. You can definitely feel it. I'm not sure if this is the full potential. Maybe it can just easily fume up the whole room with the fragrance. Maybe it will happen and I will update you with this information in a future video. Right now, when I smell it, I smell a lot of different things. This fragrance is not a typical fragrance. It's not so pleasant, I have to add. It's not like a beautiful fragrance which you want to smell all day long, but it's not bad. It's not a smell, it's definitely a fragrance, but there is something that makes it a little bit worse, let's say like that. When I smell it, I can feel a dense, high humidity jungle kind of vegetation kind of a smell. Not that green type of a smell, not that freshly cut grass and freshly cut leaves type of jungle, but rather a brown, rotting-y, vegetation-y humidity. I can understand if someone smells this and says, oh, it's like cinnamon, but I wouldn't say that. A lot of people will say this actually smells like cinnamon. This fragrance actually doesn't come in layers. There is only one fragrance that hits you and that's all, so you won't get like different layers. So there is this little bit cinnamony reminding fragrance, but that's not like really cinnamony. Then there is this humidity, vegetation-y fragrance, and also there is that something like a hyacinthy flowery smell to it, but it's not that fresh flowery, but not in a fresh way, rather in a warmer, wilting flowery way. So there is definitely this a little bit of a decay-y trait to this fragrance. Extremely hard to describe because I've never smelled anything like this before. For me, it's not that pleasant, I have to tell you. I'm not a fan of the fragrance. Okay guys, so this is an update. It's been a few days and a few things changed. So at first let's address the flowers. So as you can see, the shape of the flowers actually changed a little bit. These bottom sepals actually they are closer together right now at the bottom, and the whole shape of the flower is just, the sepals and the petals are a little bit more pulled back, and also the color is a little bit, tiny little bit lighter than it used to be. But okay, it's not a dramatic change, but I thought that I will address this situation right now. And also what's changed is the fragrance. So as I told you, I'm not a fan of the fragrance. Well, at this point I like it a little bit better. So the fragrance got a little bit, birds please. So the fragrance got a little bit stronger, and right now it can definitely fill up this sunroom. The sweetness is actually enhanced. Right now this cinnamony part, which is not really cinnamony to me but might be cinnamony to someone else, actually changed a little bit. The cinnamony part actually got stronger, so right now it reminds me a little bit more to cinnamon, but it's still not cinnamon. Also, it's changed to a very sweet and very fruity fragrance, but not fruity like in a Phalaenopsis bellina would be, or this lemony fragrance. It's an overripe fruity fragrance kind of thing right now. So yeah, I just wanted to address the situation about the fragrance and the shape. Okay, I think at this point I blabbed about the fragrance just too much, so I will give you some care informations and what am I doing. So I thought this orchid, since it's a species, it will be a little bit fussy or whatever. Actually, I think this is a really easy orchid, because when I actually transferred this orchid into this sphere bowl, I was afraid that, oh, maybe the moisture will be too much, but there is like no problems with that. If I let it dry out for a longer period, well, the orchid will show the signs, because these leaves can really easily wrinkle, and right now there was a period when I forgot to water it for like a extended period, and right now a lot of the leaves have these wrinkles along them, but they are actually plumping up right now. A big amount of the energy is actually going right now into the flowers, but slowly but surely these wrinkly leaves are plumping up. The moisture right now in this sphere bowl can really be there for a longer period, but I wanted to actually create this thing. So this material inside this sphere is actually airy, so there are air pockets, but there is actually moisture as well. This plant can easily handle the dry periods. Actually, it will start to wrinkle, but if you water it, it will actually hydrate itself back into its original state. Extended periods of moisture and wetness, there are no problems at all with that. I mean, the roots are not rotting. This orchid loves light and heat also. So I was keeping it with my wandas outside, and my wandas are getting full sunshine from the morning, from the sunrise. Actually, they are getting sunshine even at noon, and afternoon around 1 or 2 p.m. they are not getting sunshine anymore for the afternoon, so they get this full sun even in the noon for a few hours. Right at the hottest part of the day, they get shaded, so this is getting the same treatment. So there was hotness and there was a lot of light hitting the plant, and there was no issue. I had no issues with it. There was no leaf burns or anything. So yeah, this plant loves light. After that, when the winter or the autumn comes, my wandas have to go back inside, and inside they are not getting as much sunshine as in the summertime. And even though this plant wasn't getting as much sunshine, it managed to bloom in the winter time. So maybe it can do with less light. Also, not sure about that completely by now. My wandas were not blooming in the winter time, except my white wanda, but that wanda just blooms whenever it wants to bloom, so there's that. Also, I have this new leaf growing in the center right now, and I have to tell you, this orchid is slow. Actually, when the spring kicked in and the orchid thought, well, it's springtime, I have to do stuff again, the happy sap was created all over the place. The newest leaf is covered with happy sap, so I will have to wash that off because I don't want any rotting issues. So, final conclusion. I think this orchid is rather on the easier side, because I expected that it will be fussy, but actually it's not. So yeah, that's one great thing. I didn't have to go out of my way to care for it, because I'm just giving it a lot of light, and basically that's all, so that's a good thing. I'm not a fan of the fragrance, but it's something. The actual look of the flower is something to die for. I love these flowers. I'm here for them. These flowers slayed my life. Yeah, I mean, Yas Queen. This is definitely one of my favorite orchids right now. So yeah, this is my video for today and I hope you liked it. If you liked it, click on the like button. You can subscribe to this channel, subscribe to my other channel, and you can follow me on Instagram. And see you next time, I guess. So yeah, bye guys.